Part 55. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 541. Chapter 541, Hit the snake and follow the stick. Suchen said, "Don't worry, kid." After making 2 strong rattan ropes, Chiu Lao once again told Suchen to remember to fight quickly and not delay. The two of them grabbed the rattan rope and descended little by little to the top of the clover. Chiu Lao looked like he was 70 or 80 years old, but his skills were even more powerful than Suchen's. This made Suchen feel good about him. If something went wrong later, he would run away immediately and not let this old man act as a backstop. Mr. Chiu reached the top of the white snake fruit first. With a solemn expression, he gently tapped the clover leaves with a long branch. He stared at the white snake fruit for a long time and found no movement. He tapped it with the branch again and increased the size. Range. Seeing him move so carefully, Suchen felt a little nervous and regretful. He didn't have any means to save his life, so he hurriedly descended to this helpless cliff. If something happened, it might be too late to escape. Chiu Lao waited for a long time and there was no movement. He was a little puzzled. After thinking for a while, he hit White Snake Kuoksu a few times with a branch. The branch swayed twice, and suddenly with a hiss, a white snake head as thick as an arm sprang out and bit the branch head. Suchen's whole body trembled when he saw the white snake head suddenly emerging from the bottom of the fruit. It was so fast that even though he had reached the 7th level of chi refining, it was difficult to catch it, and a cold sweat arose on his back. As the saying goes, if you hit a snake, follow it with a stick. This is exactly what Chiu Lao used. After the white snake bit the branch, in the blink of an eye, the 2-meter-long snake body wrapped around the branch. The snake's mouth opened wide, revealing the bright red snake letter and sharp fangs, and it pounced on Chiu Lao. The branches used by Chiu Lao are neither long nor short. To hit Chiu Lao, you have to leave the cliff and attach your whole body to the branches to reach it. Chiu Lao didn't show any panic in his expression. The moment the snake wrapped around the branch and its tail left the cliff, he immediately shot the branch down the cliff, trying to throw the white snake directly into the depths. Chiu Lao's movements were extremely skillful, and his expression was calm, as if he had a pearl of wisdom in his hand. Sure enough, although the white snake's upper body had already risen, its lower body was still wrapped around the branch. However, at this time, Chiu Lao used his secret power to shoot down the branch. The white snake lost its attachment, and its center of gravity was unstable. It screamed, hissing with a fierce look in its eyes, but it was all in vain. The 2-meter-long body was twisting randomly in mid-air, falling rapidly, and soon disappeared from sight. This process took only a few seconds, and Suchen was stunned as he watched. At this time, Chiu Lao took a deep breath and shouted to Suchen, who was in a daze, "Brother Ding, take the white snake fruit quickly." Suchen hesitated and said, "Is there a snake under the fruit?" Chiu Lao laughed. Said, "A clover will only bear 1 white snake fruit in its lifetime, and there must be only 1 white snake guarding the white snake fruit. Little brother, don't worry." Suchen nodded, but climbed up quickly on the vine rope. Chiu Lao's face instantly darkened, and he said in a deep voice, "Brother Ding, why is this happening? The white snake fruit is right in front of you, but you don't take it." Suchen got up on the ground, patted the dust and said expressionlessly, "1 white snake fruit will do the trick." The temptation to allow people in the chi refining realm to instantly increase their cultivation to a small realm is too great. I am afraid that I will become greedy, so it is better for Chiu Lao to pick it himself. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 542. Chapter 542, Breaking Up. Chiu Lao's expression changed several times, then he smiled and said, "That's all, I'll take it then." Then he swung the rattan and reached the top of the white snake fruit, then gently pressed against the cliff to stabilize his body. Suchen saw the old man put a gray cloth bag directly on the white snake fruit. He gently pulled it and flipped his wrist, and the fruit left the clover and fell into the bag. Qiu Lao got the white snake fruit and immediately climbed up on the vine. Suchen retreated 10 feet on the ground. Qiu Lao obviously saw that Suchen was guarding against him, but he didn't care. He still had an amiable face and asked with a smile, "May I ask, Brother Ding, how did you discover my flaw?" Suchen saw that the old man was already with a face-breaking posture. He became even more vigilant, and took a few steps back, his spiritual energy all over his body ready to move. Huh, a breeze blew by. Before Suchen could react, he only felt that something was missing on his head, and the figure of Mr. Chiu in front seemed to be shaking. Mr. Chiu opened his palm, revealing the hairpin in his palm, and smiled. Then he said, "Speak honestly and don't be careful." Suchen broke out in cold sweat. The hairpin in Qiu Lao's hand was exactly on his head. For just a moment, if Qiu Lao had taken his head instead of the hairpin, Suchen didn't dare to think about it anymore. With such a huge difference in strength, how could he escape? Suchen tried his best to calm his uncontrollable heartbeat and said calmly, "It's so easy to get rid of the snake, doesn't it seem superfluous for me to get the fruit? The white snake fruit is such a treasure. If Mr. Chiu killed me when I was defenseless at the beginning, there must be someone who needs me somewhere, but I want to live for 2 more years, so." Mr. Chiu raised his eyebrows and said jokingly, "So what?" Suchen's expression suddenly changed drastically. He stared at Mr. Chiu's back, as if there was something terrible there, and stepped back step by step. Mr. Chiu sneered and said, "Young man, don't play with this little trick in front of me." Suchen stared at Qiu Lao's back, his expression changed, then he smiled and said, "Haha, you are being childish. I wonder what Qiu Lao wants me to do." Mr. Chiu laughed when he saw that Suchen seemed to have given up the idea of escape. He took out the white snake fruit in the bag and said, "It's not a big deal. I just need Brother Ding to save his life and let this white snake fruit suck you dry. My whole body is full of flesh and blood, so I can get a spiritual fruit that can help me break through the Qi refining master. It's just that this white snake fruit is very delicate. Instead of being a living body, it will rot instantly." "Haha, Brother Ding, this is not too much to ask of me, right?" Su Chen also smiled, very brightly, and said, "Not too much, not too much." Mr. Chiu frowned. This boy's reaction was too strange. Suddenly, his expression changed drastically, he shouted angrily, and a fist filled with energy suddenly collapsed behind him. Hiss, on the edge of the cliff, a white snake with scars all over its body had already made a move to take off. It didn't want to avoid it. The snake opened its mouth so wide that it could swallow Qiu Lao's fist and bite it in one bite. Poof, Qiu Lao's punch actually missed. The white snake seemed to be even more swift and fierce than before. It was just a feint. When the snake's head was 2 inches away from the fist, it quickly avoided it, turned a corner, and was about to entangle it. Shankai Lao's arms _Fei. Lu reminds you, 3 things about reading: collect, recommend, and share. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 543. At the critical moment, Qiu Lao's steps were so fast that he couldn't see clearly. His figure changed and he passed by the snake head. However, the white snake's body was extremely flexible, and Qiu Lao was unprepared at first. He hurriedly avoided the snake's head, but could not avoid the snake's tail, and was wrapped around the white snake in an instant. Qiu Lao shouted angrily, "How dare you, you beast!" His hands were like iron pliers, trying to capture the white snake by 7 inches. However, the white snake had already wrapped around his arm and had a foothold. Its head avoided Qiu Lao's attack, and its tail quickly wrapped around his neck. This white snake was as thick as an arm, and the strength of the entanglement was so great. Chiu Lao's face instantly turned purple, frightened and angry, and he looked at Suchen not far away with a look of pleading in his eyes. Before Suchen could hide, he would foolishly save someone who wanted to kill him. In the blink of an eye, he slipped into the dense forest and lost sight of him. Chiu Lao finally grabbed 7 inches of the white snake with both hands, but in the blink of an eye his neck was reduced to an inch thick by the white snake's tail, and he could no longer survive. White snake obviously has a certain spirituality and is extremely vengeful. When he comes up, he strangles the enemy's neck without hesitation, hoping to put the enemy to death. I don't know where Chiu Lao's strength came from. At that moment when he was about to die, he let out a shrill strange roar from his throat that couldn't get any air in and out. His arms were knotted with veins, and he grabbed the white snake's 7 inches and violently twist and pull. The white snake opened its mouth wide and raised its head to the sky. After a while, the tail of the white snake finally lost its strength and fell off its neck. But Mr. Chiu was already dead, with only the epidermis remaining, and the bones inside were smashed to pieces. His head was hanging from his body, his eyeballs were protruding, his muscles were twisted, and his orifices were bleeding. He looked indescribably terrifying. The body of the white snake is still squirming and not broken. Death is only a matter of time. After a long time, there was a chirping of crickets in the dense forest. A young man with an ordinary appearance came out and looked around for a while before walking to the side of Chiu Lao's body and looking at it with an indifferent expression. It's not that the snipe and the clam fight and the fisherman gets the benefit. Suchen knew that if the white snake hadn't fallen off the cliff but survived, and quickly climbed up to seek revenge, he might not have been able to escape the fate of fruit sacrifice. I don't have any strength to be a fisherman. This time I was lucky, but I may not have such luck next time. Chiu Laowen himself was very good at it, but he just thought from the beginning that his perverse expression was deliberately distracting him and took the opportunity to escape. He didn't react until White Snake was less than a foot away from him, but it was already late at that time. Suchen looked at the gray bag that fell aside, thought for a moment, and carefully rolled the white snake fruit out of the bag onto the still wriggling body of the white snake. As if he knew his fate, White Snake turned over violently on the spot, trying to get rid of the bad luck, but was still touched by the white snake fruit. This fruit is very evil. When it touches the living flesh, it immediately sticks tightly and cannot be shaken off no matter how hard it is shaken off. At the junction of the white snake fruit and the white snake's flesh sank in a moment, as if the white snake had been filled with air, and now it has lost its air and quickly shriveled up at a speed visible to the naked eye. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 544. Chapter 544 Light Wind Step. The thick white snake turned into a thin snake skin wrapped around bones. The size of the white snake fruit on the snake skin has not changed at all, but the milky white skin has become crystal clear, and there is a faint layer of aura around it, just like the legendary fairy fruit. Suchen looked at the white snake fruit on the ground with a complicated expression. If he hadn't seen the process of sucking a living body from the white snake fruit, he would probably have been attracted by the appearance of the fruit now, and he would have wanted to eat it right away before his cultivation level would increase. That dead ghost Chiu Lao said that after absorbing the fruit from a living body, it can help people break through to the realm of Chi Refiner. I don't know if I'm full from this fruit. If I eat it rashly now, I won't know who ate whom in the end. Carefully pack the fruits in a cloth bag and hide them around your waist. Suchen glanced at Chiu Lao, who was lying on the ground in a miserable state of death, then squatted down and touched it carefully. A grey cloth purse with some gold leaves inside, probably worth 1,000 taels of silver. This thing is good. The waist was stiff, and when he pulled it out, there was actually a soft sword hidden inside, but he didn't know how to use it, so he put it away first. There were also 2 pieces of flint, a few taels of scattered silver and a letter. Suchen stood up and looked around. He felt that there was nothing going on around him, so he opened the letter and read it. It turns out that Mr. Chiu is actually a low-level retainer of the Su family. He mainly collects some useful intelligence information for the Su family in the Song family dock area. For example, what is written in this letter is the number of arrivals and shipments at Songjia terminal today, who is the shipper, etc. This letter was of no use to Suchen, so he burned it. I touched deeper, but couldn't touch anything. Suchen, who had the burglar last time, took off all Chiu Lao's clothes and looked at every piece of clothing carefully. He actually found the treasure on Chiu Lao's underwear. This old man probably never changed his underwear, and there was a strange smell coming towards him. Suchen held his breath and checked. There was actually a magical skill recorded on his underwear. Qingfeng step, I don't know who wrote it. This technique can only be practiced at the 5th level of qi refining, and can only be achieved in the Ningzhen state. No wonder the dead ghost Chiu Lao carries it with him. According to what he said before, his cultivation level should be stuck at the top level of qi refining. I am afraid he has only just practiced the Qingfeng step to a small degree. He carefully put away this movement technique and continued to check on Chiu Lao's clothes. There was no sandwich or anything like that. He also opened Chiu Lao's body and found that there were no tattoos or anything on his body. After searching everything, Suchen threw Mr. Chiu's body, clothes, and the snake skin off the cliff. After cleaning up the traces around him, Suchen found a big stone, sat in a hidden place, and carefully pondered the article The Breeze Step. After reading word for a long time, I only understood the superficial meaning of the technique. As for the more subtle and obscure things inside, I still need time to think about it. Suchen felt that this Qingfeng step could not be practiced in a short time, so he got up and looked around, preparing to find a place to stay. The dense forest behind the cliff is covered with towering huge ancient trees. It is unknown how many years these trees have lived. When Suchen was in it, he felt as if he had entered the world of giants. After walking a few steps, Suchen discovered an ancient tree not far from the cliff. Feeler reminds you, 3 things about reading: collect, recommend, and share. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 545. Chapter 545 Practice. This ancient tree is 30 feet tall and can be hugged by 4 or 5 big men. There is an inconspicuous hole 90 feet away from the tree trunk, and several squirrel-like animals come and go from time to time. Suchen didn't know whether the animal was an ordinary animal or a monster, so he took a stone and tried to throw it up, but only a few pine cones fell down. I threw a few more stones and saw that the squirrels had no other tricks, so I climbed up and lit a fire in the tree hole. A large number of squirrels ran out with a hoo sound. After putting out the fire, Suchen looked inside and saw that there was enough space for half lying inside, and it was dry and clean. Suchen made the hole bigger and moved in. There were a bunch of pine cones inside, and Suchen unceremoniously smashed them open one by one and ate them. They were so delicious. With Suchen's current level of cultivation, it would be no problem if he didn't eat or drink for 3 consecutive days. He wasn't worried about food and water. I'm going to rest here today, and I'll get to the basics of practicing this Qingfeng step first. Otherwise, if I come alone to this so-called secret realm of Tiancan, everything around me will be unfamiliar, and there will be many dangers, and I won't have the ability to save my life. I don't know how I will die in the future. Qingfeng step uses qi throughout the body and pays attention to improving the body technique to the extreme while not causing too much noise to the surrounding environment. Although the person whizzed by, it only brought a gust of breeze, similar to the silent fan or silent submarine in the previous life. It ran fast but made little movement. It was a good skill. This Tiancan secret realm is not much different from the outside world. It gets dark at night. Suchen sat cross-legged in a tree hole to practice spiritual energy. The aura here is much richer than the outside world. Suchen feels that the effect of each inhalation of aura is 2 or 3 times that of before. In addition, the boundless true method itself is practiced at an astonishing speed. Suchen actually feels that the aura in his danshan is so strong that he can feel it. The speed is growing rapidly. Early the next morning, Suchen opened his eyes and beamed. After a night of practice, I actually felt like I was about to break through the 7th level of chi refining. Suppressing the urge to continue training, without knowing any moves or body techniques, there is not much difference between the 7th level of chi refining and the 8th level of chi refining. You have the power of a tiger and a leopard, but you cannot use it to its fullest. Suchen climbed down the tree, caught a small animal, and threw it on the white snake fruit. In an instant, all that was left of the animal was its fur. Suchen was secretly glad that he didn't eat the fruit hastily, otherwise he would end up like this piece of skin. When we came to the edge of the cliff, the place was a little more spacious. Suchen started practicing Qingfeng step based on his initial understanding. Seeing amidst the weeds and gravel, in the blink of an eye, Suchen rushed 10 feet away, bringing up a cloud of earth and rocks. This speed is more than twice as fast as before. However, Suchen stopped and thought carefully for a while before starting to practice again. When the sun set in the west, Suchen, who was dripping with sweat, finally stopped. The shoes have long been worn out, and now I wear a pair of straw sandals that I randomly knitted. His body was also dusty, but Suchen was in a good mood. He spent a whole day running around on the ground, stopping to think hard when he encountered something that didn't seem right. After a little bit of exploration, he actually learned some of the essence of Qingfeng walk. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 546. Chapter 546. Oh, although that girl cannot practice her body skills to be as light as Qiu Lao, she is not far behind. As her figure changes rapidly, the grass blades at her feet are only slightly floating. It seems that my understanding is quite good. I am very happy that I can achieve such results in just 2 days. It is said that when one reaches the Ningzhen realm, a mortal can fly with weapons and travel thousands of miles in a day, feeling extremely carefree. Suchen had only experienced the thrill of flying with a sword in a certain online game in his previous life. Although it was virtual, it made him happily fly around the map several times. The sky was getting dark again, so Suchen took advantage of the afterglow of the setting sun to catch a few small animals, roasted one to eat, and threw the others to the white snake fruit, which was sucked into skin and bones. While smacking his tongue, he carefully put away the fruit, climbed into the tree hole, and continued practicing. It wasn't that Suchen was eager to become the best in the world, but the feeling of practicing every day and making obvious progress every day made him unable to stop. Just like playing online games, when you know clearly that you can gain more by upgrading and fighting monsters if you work hard, what does it mean to stay up all night every day? The life in the previous life was too boring, full of bitterness in the front, and no hope in the future. Life is like water, wages are not rising, classmates seem to be doing better than me, but my girlfriend is running away with someone else, I can't afford a house, let alone a car, my boss is always trying to make a big deal, but my colleagues can't talk to each other. Maybe it would be better to live here. Suchen was thinking about some complicated thoughts and couldn't calm down to practice for a while, so he had to stop. What would that girl look like in that lonely little courtyard during the long night? Will she always sit in the middle of the yard waiting for him to come back? Or did you find out something and desperately search for yourself? Is she hungry? Did anyone bully her? If he is not by her side, will he feel miserable at night? Suchen suddenly discovered that Xiaoyu was so important and caring in his heart. Ha, that silly girl. Su City, Song family peer, the black hole stopped in front of the warehouse, slowly rotating, and the surrounding light was distorted. This is the node that truly travels through space, and it is extremely mysterious. This is the first time in history that the entrance to Tianquan's secret realm falls within Su City. However, Su Renchang, the city lord of Su City and the head of the Su family, did a good job. He sealed off the entire Su City as soon as possible and said that he was searching for internal thieves. However, the people of Suzhou knew that this method only allowed the news that the Tianquan secret realm appeared in Su City to spread to the outside world. At this time, the servants of the Su family built a large house outside the huge and round black hole as quickly as possible to block the view of the sky. The masters of the Ningzhen realm can be easily dealt with, but if the powerful masters of the water realm or higher realms pass through and let them see this entrance, it will be difficult for the Su family to occupy this big position, and the benefits will be reduced exponentially. If one's luck is extreme and one encounters a top expert with a perverse temper, it might even bring disaster to the Su family. This is something that no one in the Su family wants to see, including those other big families that are vassals around the Su family. The Song family peer belongs to the Song family in Su City, and Song Qian, the head of the Song family, was also the first person to rush to the Su people. Filu reminds you, 3 things about reading: collect, recommend, and share. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 547. Chapter 547. How can one dare to ask for more if he has 100 feet? It had been 2 days since the Tianquan secret realm appeared. Although Song Qian was already 40 years old, he still couldn't restrain his eagerness when facing the legendary Tianquan secret realm. Looking at Su Ren, who was sitting on the main seat with his eyes closed, he went to please him and said that, "Sir, we have almost taken all the necessary measures. Do you think it is time to organize the subordinates to go in? After all, there have been cases in the past where the Tianquan secret realm only appeared for a month and then disappeared." The other major Su City cultivator families sitting on the side also looked eagerly at Su Renwen, who was sitting on the main seat. Su Renchang has a majestic face and is calm and intimidating. In addition, he is the only Ruoshui realm expert in Su City within 100 years. The heads of the major families in Su City have long been accustomed to lowering their heads in front of Su Renchang. With the appearance of the Tianquan secret realm this time, everyone just hoped to follow the Su family and have a sip of soup, which would be very satisfying. Go Shenglin, the head of the Go family, the second largest family in Su City, also echoed. "Mr. Su, there were hundreds of people who took advantage of the chaos the day before yesterday. If they were allowed to roam freely inside, our losses would be huge, and we would be taking advantage of those untouchables." Su Renwen opened his eyes, his brilliant light appeared, and looked around everyone. Everyone was silent. At this time, a black horse guard came in and reported, "My lord, all the psychic jades have been made, a total of 1,200 pieces. Please, sir. Instruct." Su Ren stood up and waved "Notify Tyre to lead the candidates to gather at the Songji appear immediately." Yes, the black cavalry guard took the order and went out. The Su people looked at the heads of the major families with shining eyes. There was a hint of sneer in their eyes. They said in a deep voice, "There are only 1,200 psychic jades. My Su family has 700. How about 100 for each family?" Although the heads of each family were a little unwilling, they could only look satisfied on the surface and said repeatedly, "There are so many adults, all we need to do is drink some soup with them, how can we dare to ask for more? 100 is enough, 100 is enough." The Tianquan secret realm has appeared on the mainland hundreds of times since ancient times. The psychic jade is a tool that every organized team must equip. Just put a drop of blood on the psychic jade, and the psychic jade can automatically senses the host's life information. Once the host dies, other people who can sense the host's psychic jade can immediately receive the message. and although they cannot make calls, they can allow people with the same spiritual jade within 100 miles to sense each other. The position can play a very important role in the dangerous Tianquan secret realm. In addition, the Su family has equipped the 10 most reliable people among the 700 personnel with spirit bags. This is a kind of spirit bag with a large internal space and a unique appearance. A space object the size of an ordinary purse. Although it is expensive, it is not too rare. Compared with Naja, which is a small world of its own, it is not worth mentioning. The other 5 families are also equipped with various artifacts. Including the Su family, all the 1,200 people sent by the 6 major families in Su City to the Tianquan secret realm have gathered. There are psychic jade, spirit bags, spiritual talismans, and capable people who are proficient in formations. There is a sea of people in front of the Song family pier. Those selected among these 1,200 people, each cultivation level is not lower than the 9th level of Qi. Refining_Feilu reminds you, 3 things about reading: collect, recommend, and share. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 548. Chapter 548 An Unexpected Surprise. Among the 700 people sent by the Su family, 200 people reached the level of Qi Refiner. The other 5 major families also sent all their clansmen at the level of Qi Refiner. For fear of falling behind others, Suren went to speak briefly and concisely. Anyone who is not from the 6 major families in the secret territory of Tianquan will be killed without mercy. Let's go. Yes, 200 people agreed with a loud voice and filed into the entrance of Tianquan's secret realm. The next day, Su Chen woke up, facing the morning sun, breathing the fresh air in the forest, and started a new day of practice. He was not in a hurry to hunt for treasures, because he knows that he is basically illiterate in this regard. If he encounters a strange thing like the white snake fruit that can suck fresh blood and flesh, it will be over. It is easy to think that as time goes by, people who enter the Tianquan secret realm there will be more and more. In his previous life, Su Chen read history and read too many stories about the crimes of holding a jade, and he is more aware of how sinister people's hearts can be in a place where even heaven can't control. In such a place, no one should believe it except himself. No one can be relied on except his own strength. Su Chen ran tirelessly among the ancient trees again and again. Compared with the flatter cliff edge, this place was a better place to train his dodge ability. As he changed positions quickly, he listened to the sound of wind in his ears. While whistling, almost using his subconscious to control his body to avoid the huge ancient trees, smelling the fresh and pure air in the forest, Su Chen ran faster and faster, and the more he ran, the happier he became. It was a carefree feeling. The breeze blew across his face, as if his heart was about to fly in the forest. It wasn't until he felt that the spiritual energy in his body was exhausted, Chen stopped. Looking at the sky, he realized that when he ran, he actually ran for a long time, which he vaguely remembered running. Direction: Su Chen arrived at the tree hole. On the way back, Su Chen kept reviewing himself and learning to hold back. Fortunately, he didn't go too far from the tree hole during this morning's running around, and he didn't encounter any danger. He crossed his legs in the tree in the cave, he calmly cultivated his qi. An hour later, Su Chen opened his eyes in surprise. He had unexpectedly reached the 8th level of qi refining without even realizing it. What an unexpected surprise! It seems that the journey of cultivation is not all about hard work. Occasionally, if you open your mind like this, you can get twice the result with half the effort. Just when Su Chen was happy, a faint panic suddenly emerged from the bottom of his heart. Su Chen frowned, not knowing where this feeling of boredom came from. Not long after, there was a rumble in the distance, and the ground beneath my feet seemed to be shaking faintly. The sound became louder and louder, and what was even weirder was that the rumble seemed to be mixed with a lingering buzzing sound, and it seemed that it was the latter that made him panic. Suchen quickly tightened everything he wanted to put away, quickly climbed up to the height of the ancient tree, and looked at the place where the strange noise came from. This look almost scared Suchen. He had to fall from the tree. Among the endless towering ancient trees in the north, various birds and beasts could be vaguely seen rushing towards the sky. Some huge monsters even broke down giant trees along the way, and their momentum was so fierce. Big and shocking, it is tens of millions of times more powerful than the 3D movies Suchen watched in his previous life. However, what makes Suchen even more horrified is the countless birds and beasts behind him. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 549. Chapter 549. Tide of Horrible Beasts. The large dark cloud covering half of the sky was slowly pressing over, and the terrifying buzzing sound came from there. Suchen jumped off the tree and ran in the opposite direction without any hesitation. Seeing the dark clouds that covered half of the sky, Suchen knew that if he couldn't survive today's tribulation, he might be responsible for the 120 kilograms. You can guess with your toes that these countless running birds and beasts are running for their lives. The dark clouds that cover the sky are probably something similar to locusts, and this thing must not be meat-free. Otherwise, why would those beasts run? Suchen didn't want to be trampled into mud by wild beasts, nor did he want to be eaten into dregs by insects. So he ran as hard as he could. But even so, the rumbling and buzzing sounds behind were getting closer and closer, and the earth beneath my feet shook more and more violently. The Qingfeng step is used to the extreme. This is not the time to cherish the spiritual energy. The spiritual energy in the body is all over the body and flowing crazily. While speeding up your running pace, you can relieve the fatigue of your whole body, especially your leg muscles. The big trees and some strange plants beside him whizzed past his ears, and his eyes could no longer keep up with the flashing objects around him. Suchen was completely relying on his subconscious to avoid obstacles at this moment. Maybe my speed can catch up with the cars in the city. Suchen couldn't figure out why he had such an idea at this time. There is no such thing as running diagonally. If there is a route that can avoid danger, just run. On the right is a bottomless cliff, and on the left is an endless forest. And behind, there is also a herd of beasts and terrifying dark clouds. Their numbers are so huge that they are as wide as the skyline. Suchen had no choice but to go south. The ground was shaking more and more violently, and Suchen could feel that the ground beneath his feet was no longer stable. Everything was beating, and even the air was vibrating. At first, the various birds that kept chirping overtook Suchen and flew overhead. Suchen even saw a giant eagle with a wingspan of 10 feet, flapping its wings like a plane and flying overhead without even paying attention to Suchen beneath him. Then there is a snake with 2 pairs of wings, also 7 or 8 feet long, 1 foot seems to be 33 meters. Who knows why the snakes here have wings, or why the birds have the body of a snake. Other weird flying things flew overhead one by one, and things on the ground finally caught up with Suchen. First, there was a dark leopard, as big as a house, which could jump a distance of 10 to 20 feet in one leap, and flew past Suchen's left-hand side. Suchen felt something was wrong and quickly looked back. Oh my God! Suchen's soul came out. At that glance, Suchen only saw a huge beast's leg stepping on it, and the beast's body was so huge that Suchen couldn't see it in the hurry. He was thinking of winning the lottery. After hiding a few meters to the right, the golden hair on the huge beast's leg brushed against Suchen's face. His face felt like it had been whipped by a whip, and it hurt. There was a sudden darkness above his head, and Suchen thought he was about to be stepped on. It turned into shit, but it turned out that it was a head full of golden hair whistling _Fe. Lou reminds you, 3 things about reading: collect, recommend, and share. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 550. Chapter 550 Restoring the Soul. Enter the small world again. Suchen didn't know which tendon had opened his mind. With a flash of inspiration, he jumped up and grabbed the hair on top of his head with both hands. With soft hands, Suchen firmly grasped a large bunch of hairs, closed his eyes tightly and tightened his face. I don't know what kind of giant beast the owner of this hair is, but Suchen is like a cocklebur seed, hanging firmly under its belly hair. As the giant beast jumped up and down, flying rocks or broken wood were shot from time to time. It would be great if Suchen didn't fall off. In this case, he couldn't care about these details. After a while, his whole body was covered with scars. This feeling of pain, the beating, actually caused Suchen to gradually become unconscious. Then he felt his body suddenly sinking. Then there was something like suddenly jumping out of the boundless darkness. The surroundings suddenly became bright. Open your eyes again. Suchen has returned to the small world of birds singing and flowers fragrant. Next to him, Luo Shen was looking at him with surprise. Ah! This slightly flawed soul recovered quite quickly. Suchen came back to his senses and dispelled the experiences and memories of the previous small world. He smiled and said, indeed. It took a few months to restore and perfect a ray of soul, and it shouldn't take much time to perfect the next few strands of soul. Luo Shen nodded happily. Suchen smiled and said, come on, continue. Luo Shen once again created a small world according to his words. Suchen separated a ray of flawed soul, transformed into his own appearance, and entered this small world again. And this world happens to be a fantasy world. No. No, no. The August sky is as red as iron burnt by fire. The branches on both sides of the road were drooping, and they were as listless as the pedestrians passing by the sultry weather. Suchen, wearing a short-sleeved t-shirt and denim shorts, was walking on the way to get off work while chewing ice cream, repeating the life of an office worker day after day. Although it has only been a year since he graduated and started working, he is already tired of this kind of life. The helpless reality was that a butcher's knife was pressed firmly against Suchen's neck. As a poor man with no status, he could only bow to his fate. The sky is gray and the temperature is close to 40 degrees. This place has become a veritable steamer. Suchen quickened his pace. He just wanted to return to the rental house and take a quick shower. Ah! What is that? Suchen suddenly heard the people around him exclaiming. He looked left and right, only to find that his surroundings had fallen into boundless darkness at some point. He could only see himself and nothing else, except for the shocking figure. Weirdly black. Before Suchen could react, his vision suddenly became distorted. It was as if his body had turned into noodles and been sucked into a deep, dark hole. The strange thing was that his body was stretched into threads without any pain, until Suchen lost his last consciousness. The Jianhan Valley in winter is simply not a place for people to stay. In the past, the upper half of the Sword Mark Valley was covered with snow all year round, but the lower half was filled with unknown magma. The only thing here is the everlasting tranquility and serenity. Boom! The thundering sound directly triggered avalanches on several mountains around the Jianhan Valley. The white snow rumbled down like a wave, destroying everything. Until it encountered the Jianhan Valley, all the white snow rushed into the valley and mixed with the underground magma. Once touched, it instantly disappears into nothingness.